Fast fact. A British mortgage provider reduced the average time for completing a mortgage application from 1 to 2 hours down to 8 to 10 minutes using AI. I'm Drew Thomas, and you're listening to Bank Chats.
We've never seen that before, where students use ChatGPT for.
Oh no, I've never seen that.
I had one actually leave the thing in there and said, do you need to know anything more about this topic? It's just like, really?
Yeah, I mean, generally it's very easy to know when students use AI to produce code. Students don't realize how easy it is to know that they've plagiarized at all, whether it's plagiarized from a website or plagiarized from another student in class.
Mm-hmm.
It is just so easy. And the general telltale thing is that in the code does something that I didn't teach them. Mm. So I'll see that they made a variable this way. I taught them to do it this way. Why did they do that? So that just tips me off. I'll just grab a line of code, pop it into Google, and then I'll find it on some website, and there's the whole assignment.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's just so easy to detect that they're doing something that you didn't tell them how to do.
For essays as well, you can, if you're reading 25, 30 essays from students, you kind of get a feel for their style and also the style of an undergrad student. And then whenever you see something generated by ChatGPT, it jumps out. I'm not saying that I'm, as good as the online detectors. I'm not, which there are ones that you can search and, copy paste text and see if it's properly generated by AI or not. But you get a feel for it. You start to, something's not quite right about this.
Yeah, the student always turns in C-level work, and then all of a sudden, here's a master's level essay.
Yeah.
Wait a second.
And being people that are into technology and hacking things, and looking for ways around it, we know those techniques. I'll look at metadata for a Word doc and see how long was the document opened, and it was open for a minute. Okay, well,
yeah. How'd you rate 10 pages of it?
How did you do that? Teach me your ways.
Yeah. So we kind of jumped right into the middle of the conversation, but I'm just going to set this up a little bit just so that we have it on to sort of introduce this. So we're talking about AI with Kevin Slaga and Mike Zimbody from St. Francis University. We started talking AI sort of off mic, and then we decided that this was too interesting to not put on mic. So that's where we are. So you've joined us in the middle of what has been an interesting conversation about artificial intelligence and not only how it impacts things in the scholastic environment, but just some misconceptions that are out there about AI. And I'm curious to see. I was going to ask you this, and then I decided to wait until we were on the mic to ask you this. So, from a cybersecurity standpoint, is AI making things more difficult for people to identify fraud? I mean, is that something can you generate something that's more likely to get somebody to fall for something by using AI, or is it less likely?
I wouldn't say more or less. I would just say quicker. So, you can generate phishing emails or, whatever, social engineering prompts a lot faster and using different sources, using AI faster than you could as a human, just going and Googling things and piecing them together.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it does let bad guys do things a lot faster than they were able to do. And there's actually 2 of our students who want to do some research with another professor who you've spoken with in the past, John Valcosi.
Oh, yeah.
To see if they can find artifacts of something like, is this image generated by AI? So in the digital forensics world, are they able to detect when things they find on people's computers were AI generated?
There was a news story that I read that there are some of the major corporations, I think Adobe was one, Apple might have been another. There were a number of corporations that agreed that they were going to put a metadata watermark that couldn't be user tampered with when something was generated by AI. But again, not everybody, people that see stuff like that online, like they're not going to know how to go look for a metadata watermark. So
right. And even what you just said, that people can't tamper with, that's wrong. Like from an offensive security perspective, you can tamper with anything. So people will figure it out.
Right. And that's kind of like, if you think, and a lot of people might not know this, but every printer puts a unique fingerprint whenever it prints paper. You can't see it, and it's on the paper. And so if you could take a piece of paper and say, well, where was this printed? You could match it up with a particular printer.
Wow.
I actually
it's like a dot of ink or something like that.
It's multiple dots of ink. Yeah. So at my very first job, so this was 25 years ago, we learned that these things were happening. So we printed out a sheet of paper from the printer, looked up the code online. We actually had to take it to our publishing department because they had the eye loops. Because they were that small. So we had to look at them and figure out, okay, here's the dots. And we had to put the dots into this reader online, which then deciphered the dots. And it told us the name of the printer, the IP address, the make, the manufacturer. You could take that piece of paper and know exactly where it was printed.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if we see something like that with AI, I think that would be pretty awesome. A little story, back in May, we had our community development week at school after the semester, and our dean of the STEAM department, he actually did a presentation where he created an artificial intelligence hymn. He said, I'm not an expert on this, but he said, I put a picture on, I gave a voice sample and said, make me a script. And it read a 3-minute video, and it was passable. Whenever we watched the video, I wasn't saying for sure this is not our dean in the video. So, and he said, I put 10 to 15 minutes into this. So that's another thing. And, one of the key core concepts I teach in school is be skeptical. Be skeptical of everything that you see, everything that you read, verify it.
Yeah.
And that goes double for these videos and pictures now. Don't just assume things on face value.
I'm trying to remember the website, and maybe I shouldn't remember because I don't want to necessarily endorse it, but there's a website that I came across it was about 2 months ago, where it'll generate music. Like, it'll generate an entire song for you, like lyrics and all. Like, you can either give it lyrics, or you could just say, write me a song about my cat, eating catnip at 2 a.m. and it'll create an entire song around it. It's absolutely crazy.
There was a lawsuit that someone had put into AI that they wanted lyrics like a certain artist. And then they went to a different AI website and said, okay, here's the lyrics. I want you to sing it like said artist. And you couldn't tell the difference from the original artist and this imposter, this deep fake.
Yeah.
I've done that with ChatGPT. I said, you're Taylor Swift. Please write me a song about cybersecurity. And you read the lyrics and it's like, wow, this is like, it's really cool. It actually, you read it and you're like, well, this could be a Taylor Swift song.
Yeah.
And then you're right. There's ones that you can actually have it sing in the person's voice. So maybe we can make a cybersecurity.
I want to hear that song because I love Taylor Swift.
Who doesn't?
We're going to do, after we're done after this conversation, we're going to go create it. And then that'll be the theme music to this episode. It'll be, so before we turn the microphones on, I want to double back just a minute, because Kevin said some stuff that I think is important to note, is that talk a little bit about what you talk about what AI really is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So it's not magic. From a computer science perspective, AI is nothing more than a bunch of if statements, which, if you've never done computer programming, it's a way that you make a program do one thing or a different thing based on the input it receives. So if you have a program that you ask it, enter a number, if you enter the number 5, it prints out yay. If you enter the number 4, it prints out boo. You can make a program react based on the input. That's all AI is. It is just thousands upon thousands upon thousands. People have to train AI with data. So it's not able to think. I think the word artificial intelligence, it's a misnomer because it's not intelligent. Mm-hmm. Like, there is no intelligence to it. It's just strictly artificial. And it's nothing more than just bunches of if statements that programmers have to put into it to make it be able to react to whatever people are typing in to ChatGPT or whatever. I'm sure, those of you listening, if you've used any type of AI, you've probably gotten an incorrect result at some point from what you've asked it. And the only reason that happens is because somebody hasn't programmed in that one if statement that can answer your question correctly.
Yeah.
Like, that's all it is.
You hit that else.
Yeah, you hit the else where it didn't know what to do. Yeah.
We're all talking in basic here.
Well, the problem is sometimes you'll get an incorrect answer, but if you're asking it something about a topic you don't know about, and it gives you a statement, you're going to take it as, well, that must be true. But if you know about the whatever you're asking it and say, well, okay, now I can discern that's a false statement. There was an example where somebody said, well, how do I get my cheese to stick to my pizza? It keeps falling off. And ChatGPT said, helpfully, put a 1/4 cup of glue in your cheese. And somebody said, this doesn't sound like a good idea. I know about the paleo diet, but this is a little too far.
much. Yeah.
But then they actually found the root of it was a Reddit post where somebody sarcastically said, you can just put cheese or glue in your cheese. And that's what he was learning on. So like Kevin said, essentially we're dealing with not artificial intelligence, but machine learning. It's learning from something. And if it's learning from something that's wrong, it's going to output wrong. It's not going to all of a sudden know.
Yeah, so nobody has to worry about Skynet or, artificial intelligence doing anything of value because that's just not what it is.
Yeah, and you said about learning, from itself or learning. I think the term you just said is sarcasm. The concept of human sarcasm has got to be something that is the most difficult thing in the world for a machine that is looking at everything very literally to understand. If I said, it could be something as simple as saying, in the 80s and 90s, oh man, that's bad, right? Bad meant good, right? So if some machine learning tool out there is researching stuff that was written, a newspaper written in the 1980s, it's going to have an entire subset of data that bad means good, but it doesn't always mean good.
Well, if it's trying to learn off of Gen Z slang,
good luck.
I don't understand Gen Z. I maybe every generation says that, but I don't understand Gen Z.
Every generation has their slang, right? But there's some that, maybe we're all just old, right?
Yeah, but this is really weird. Yeah, some of them. But maybe it's not weird to the people. But you're right. A computer would not be able to discern. If they heard one person say bad, at some point, you got to look at the context. What did you say that in? Or in baseball, you could say that pitch was filthy. You would say, well, whoa, that was a terrible pitch, right? No, it was a great pitch.
Yeah.
So it's really the context.
Or the ball was dirty. You don't even...
Right. And in that case, the ball was dirty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the uniform was filthy. Oh, well, it was actually dirty. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the guy slit. So the context is important. And I don't think that computers are at that point, or artificial intelligence is at that point where it's going to get that context to the degree a human can discern it now.
I think it's one of those things where by putting it out there for people to play with, and I really think that's what it is. It's the latest technological toy for people to be able to play with, to create art, music, to create deepfakes.
It's the cryptocurrency of this decade, right? That was the big thing 10 years ago. Now it's AI.
Yeah. And I do believe that it is going to, I don't even want to necessarily say I think it's going to improve. It's going to change. And, like much technology, I think that, if you grew up playing Atari, right, and then you graduated to Nintendo, and then you graduated to, PlayStation, and then so it improves, but it doesn't improve instantaneously. It took 30 years or 40 years to go from Pong to Tomb Raider on that looks realistic and all these graphics and stuff. But so will AI improve? At what it does, possibly. And I think that's where people get scared. I think they're getting scared of the idea that they're not going to be able to tell what's real and what's not.
Yeah, that definitely can happen. Like we were talking about before, does this make the life of hackers easier or whatever? And yes, the things that can be made that look real, that art, can happen much quicker now. And I would say that if they're, even though I hate AI and I think it's stupid, even if there was...
Don't hold back, Kevin. I know, right? Really feel.
Even if there was a use for it, like I think Mike had mentioned this before, writing like small scripts, doing programming for you. That is something that, AI is generally okay at. If I said, write me a Python script to do X, it could do a fairly good job. And, it would write the 40 lines of code. It might not be perfectly correct, but I know how to program. I could fix the 1 or 2 mistakes, and I just saved myself 10 minutes. So, there are some benefits to it. It can make your life a little bit easier, but if you don't know that it could be wrong and you don't know to fix that mistake, did you just cause a system to crash because you took something from AI and deployed it in production without testing it?
There was a CrowdStrike issue.
I was wondering if you were going to bring that up. We could talk about that for an hour.
It just kind of makes you wonder, though, like, did they release that without what were they using to create that code that caused that glitch? You just got to wonder.
That was definitely a virus definition file generated by ChatGPT.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll ever come out and say exactly how they let that happen, but a lot of people said, well, why didn't you test this patch? You know, you don't test it in production like that.
Yeah, the AI told us to.
They said,
It said it was good. Yeah.
it was an intern. Maybe there was an intern, which I think, who was it? Was it SolarWinds that blamed an intern for doing something? And it was a huge breach. And it was like, oh, just they pointed at the intern. It's like, well, why'd you give the intern that capability?
Well, he's the easiest one to fire.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't our fault. It's the intern.
Right. But yeah, I mean, this, we're talking about not being able to tell good from bad with AI. And this really has affected some companies so far. Like some hospitals now are using AI to help diagnose. So like radiology studies, they'll use AI to look at the radiographs and be able to tell, oh, this is a broken bone, this is a tumor, whatever. But while that's good, it's not always right. And some hospitals have actually put policies into place now. UPMC is one of them who has done this. No medical decision will ever be made based on AI without a human checking it first.
Yeah.
Like that is a real policy that they have put into place because they know people are doing this, and you got it. I mean, you're dealing with people's lives at that point, right?
Right.
You got to make sure somebody doesn't die because the AI said so.
So is there a little bit of a I'm gonna show my age. Whenever I was in school, elementary school, middle school, high school, I had teachers constantly telling me, you're not going to be able to live your entire life with a calculator in your pocket. You better learn how to do long division. Right?
You look at us now.
So really, I think I do have a calculator in my pocket. And so, I mean, is there some element of that to AI as well? Like, is there some resistance to AI that it's like, oh, well, that's never going to be, but could it improve it in a positive way? Or is it always going to be something where you're going to have to double and triple check what its output is?
Well, I think any technology that comes out there's always going to be some resistance to it. Even today, you work in banking. There's people that will not use online banking, right?
True.
They're going to say, I'm never, ATMs, I'm never using those. Okay, there's always some resistance to it. But then there's other people who use it. And, ultimately the technology, we look at it as neutral. It's a tool. And is the tool always going to work and be the end all be all? It's not, but it's going to help us. How can we use this? Like Google searches. You could do Google searches as well, and it's going to assist you, but you're not going to rely on it. You're still going to have your experience and your insights into the particular thing that you're working on.
Yeah. How many times do you get bad results from a Google search, right? Happens all the time.
Sure.
You don't get a list of 100 perfect results. But I mean,
and look at how much longer that algorithm has been working compared to AI.
Yeah, the Google algorithm has been out since 99 or whatever when they started working on it. AI has been around for a day? Like, I mean, give it time, people.
Yeah,
but like said, it learns based on stuff that is already out there. So how do you protect against that, right? If AI is learning from Reddit posts and other forums where people can lie and put bad information, how do you protect against that? Is there a way, no matter how good AI gets, is there a way that we can ever get it to a certain point where we can stop worrying that it may tell us something that is wrong?
As I sit here right now, my gut feeling on that is just no.
That's mine too.
No.
Because I think there are too many, and I think we talked about this off mic, but I think there are just too many people out there who live to cause chaos. And their joy in life is to take something and try to make it, try to break it, try to make it, less usable, less accurate. And if you're going to allow the internet to feed AI information, it's always going to be fed information that is not 100% true or accurate. Yeah. And then, if you want to get into the philosophical side of things, what is truth? But
okay, this is taking a little turn,
But I mean, really, like what it kind of goes back to the semantics and the conversation we had about sarcasm. Like, what is true? Like, saying that pitch was filthy is true, but it's true in the context that we understand the terminology rather than a literal interpretation of what is true.
And that kind of goes back to my kind of philosophical viewpoint that I mentioned about AI in general, that the whole computer science field since its beginning, our sole purpose was to make things better, make the code better, make it more correct, make it always right. Now there's this tool out there that the whole world has access to, and it's always wrong. Like we've taken the whole field of computer science back 50 years by, everybody using this tool that is nowhere near better, from things that we've had in the past. So that just bothers me at a core level.
And it is the shiny new thing. And we've come across many shiny new things in technology. Years ago, Kevin will remember this, cloud. And everything was cloud. It's like, it's going to be cloud-based. Everything, you like buy a product, you're like, it's cloud-based. You're like, I don't care. It's, it's breakfast cereal. I don't know how the cloud comes into this, and then we see it now. You'll hear products. I heard a bank advertising saying, we use an AI platform for making decisions on loans.
No, really?
It's like, it doesn't help me as a customer.
That is totally not us.
No.
Yeah, please don't do that. Whatever bank is doing this, please don't do that.
That's something that you need human intervention. And also, as a customer, it doesn't really matter. Why would you care how the bank was making a decision? Hopefully it's a person you can talk to and discuss.
Well, but I think that comes down to sometimes marketing too.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are times when a company wants to get on the bandwagon and say they're using AI, and we've had conversations within the bank about what kind of AI we're willing to accept, mostly because we simply don't have a choice in some cases but to adopt certain AI things, because if we want to use certain pieces of software, basic stuff like Microsoft Word, you have to accept the fact that there is an AI element because these companies are building it in, and if you don't want it, then you just can't use that software, and it becomes a thing. But so we've had conversations about how much of it to use, and even just trying to define what AI is, because to Kevin's point of a bunch of if statements, is spell check in Microsoft Word AI? I mean, we don't think of it that way, but technically speaking, by the letter of the law, you're telling the system, compare this to the correct information you already have on your stored in memory as to how to spell the word, strawberry, right. And right, and tell me if it's wrong. I wouldn't call that AI, but some might.
Well, that's where it comes down to context, because you can say that the word weather with an H or weather with EA. Both of them are spelled correctly, but in the context, one might not be right. Whereas it might say, well, the words, if it's just checking, if it matches the dictionary, it does. This word matches the dictionary, it's spelled correctly. But in the context, it's the wrong word.
And that was a big thing when spell check came out. I remember
it was grammar check.
Yeah, because I remember English teachers saying, like, just because it spells, you have to read it yourself as a human being, because just because it passes spell check doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah.
And I think AI is following, it's a bigger version of that, but it's the same idea.
Well, yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, all we're doing is giving a new name to stuff that's been around. It's just, this stuff is more complicated now. It's being done faster now. Spell check, that's AI. That's literally a computer doing a task that a human would have normally had to do. It's what AI does.
Well, one area I've seen as a possible positive for AI in banking and financial services is fraud detection. Banks and credit card companies can use it to detect fraud on accounts quicker.
So looking at patterns and examining, like, you guys started out by saying that you can kind of look at a student's writing and you learn what their style is. And if their style suddenly deviates, you kind of think, well, maybe they're using something other than, maybe they're not writing it. But, banks can look at that too. They look at, okay, well, this person always shops at this particular store. They always buy that particular coffee in the morning. And suddenly they're doing something completely out of character in a different state. We look at that as humans and say, hey, maybe we need to call this into question. So I could see where something like a computer algorithm might be able to do that more efficiently. But you still, maybe don't want to rely on that entirely, because maybe somebody's on vacation.
Exactly. And there's context. There's also privacy issues in learning, the data it has to learn on. But yeah, that's a great point. We always think of ourselves as very unique, but if we look at everybody's individual credit card bills or debit card purchases, they'd probably follow a pretty consistent pattern. Mm-hmm. But that's where, so there are some positive uses, but there's also privacy concerns. And there's also the context of, hey, Drew's on vacation, right? He's out there in the Caribbean, and he just used his card, to buy a coconut drink.
Yeah.
Well, that he doesn't usually do that. We don't want to flag it immediately. We want to maybe run an additional check on that.
Yeah. I don't know. I think this is a conversation that I think a lot of people are having, and it's a good conversation to have, just to try to educate people on what exactly AI is and whether or not it's going to be the demise of humanity or not. My guess is more toward a not.
Yeah, nobody has to worry about Skynet or anything like that. It's just not capable of that, and it never will be.
What about war games is my question.
Okay, so war games is different, right? That was just a computer that's, something flipped a switch and now you're launching thermonuclear war.
I love the fact that I'm hanging out with you guys because you got that reference, and there are a lot of people that my daughter would not. So.
But this kind of brings up the CrowdStrike issue that you just talked about. What allowed that issue to happen? I would hope that with thermonuclear war, our nuclear weapons are under more of a lock and key than a single computer that can launch them at will.
Well, you'd hope.
I would hope.
We like
so.
to think that, but
Yeah.
Then again, people use password as their password, so
That's true. Yeah.
it's actually less than what they offer now. Well, there was a story, and I don't know the exact details because I don't think the Department of Defense has released them, but there was situations where the U.S. and Russia did talk to each other, and it looked like there was a nuclear launch on one side, and they actually talked to each other and said, no, we're not, and they got to the trust level that they could verify this, they're not just saying they didn't launch them. They really didn't. But there has been apparently some close calls before, and I'm sure there's some that we will never find out about too.
I'm okay with that. I don't, in the information age, I think there comes a point where there's just information I don't need to know.
And doesn't that cause a lot of the problems that the society has today, right? Too much information. If it was 50 years ago, you just wouldn't know that things like this are happening, and you live your life. And now everybody knows everything, so now everything is a big deal.
Everybody's an expert.
Yes.
I mean, that to me, I look at social media and I think to myself that it was the one of the greatest failed experiments in communication that you could possibly have, in that it has allowed us to become more socially connected, but it has also given everybody a megaphone and told them that their opinion is just as valid as someone who might be more learned about a particular topic. And that's not to say that everybody's opinion doesn't have value, but if I am a nuclear physicist, I believe that my value about nuclear physics has more value than, say, Jeff's, who is a...
No. I watched a movie once. House expert.
You stayed at a Holiday Inn last
Yeah.
Well, I think Mike said it best on one of our previous shows. The loudest person wins, right? In cases like this, whoever screams the loudest, that's the one everybody hears.
Yeah, and it's kind of torn down the walls between the quote normal people like us and celebrities. Celebrities used to be, wow, this person that we would never hear from, maybe an interview every once in a while or see them in a movie. Now we see them, what they just had for breakfast on Twitter or Instagram, and they're in a Twitter fight with somebody about some other topic, and it's like, whoa, they're just like a person like us.
Yeah.
The mystique kind of crumbled with celebrity.
And yet there's more of the there are people who are celebrities that I guess the very term celebrity has sort of lost meaning for me, because there are people that are called celebrities that I was watching the 4th of July special on TV, and they said, oh, we have all these, you know how they do the rundown of celebrities at the beginning. Oh, we're going to hear from this person, that person. I knew like one out of the 20 that they named. And I'm like, how can they be called a celebrity when and my wife didn't know who they were either, for the record.
They're the Gen Z celebrities.
And what's their job?
Influencers.
I guess. Influencers, YouTubers.
Right. Their job is an influencer. It's
right.
Of what? What do you influence?
They have a brand.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So what else? Is there anything else about AI that we didn't touch on that maybe Kevin would like to rail on just for another minute?
No, I mean, I think we hit it all. Really, the bottom line is just be careful. Yeah, it's not the be all end all. It's not the greatest thing in the world, despite what you're hearing on commercials and everything. And it can be wrong. So if you do choose to use it, double, triple check, the results.
Yes, be skeptical, my friends. Whenever you get a result from the internet or somebody you don't know on the internet or social media, be skeptical of it. Don't take it at face value. Always do that investigation. Is this true? Like, ask those questions. Ask why. If you get an answer for something, say, well, why? Why is this the case?
Yeah, it's like that meme that was going. I may be misquoting it, but it was something to the effect of, everything you read on the internet is not necessarily true, and then it was attributed to Abraham Lincoln.
Right.
You know, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, you got to think about those things. But AI is, I think it is a buzzword. I think it is something that people are using sort of more cavalierly than they probably should be. To your point about the cloud, you know, everything. We talked about that in one of our previous episodes too. Yeah, everything was in the cloud. You know, it's up in the sky. It's not in the cloud. It's on a server somewhere. It's just not on your server in your house.
Well, it's also a question businesses are asking. Inside of every senior management and boardroom meeting, they're asking, should we be using AI? How should we be using AI? What should we be doing? So it is a big topic in business as well. So that's why, you know, as security professionals, we also need to consider this. This is something that the businesses are asking for, that they're incorporating maybe with or without proper
Due diligence.
diligence. Exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a good point that you brought up. This is being brought up in every boardroom. But I think it's important, if we have any listeners who are in those boardroom meetings, it is okay to say we don't need AI. Just because somebody in a boardroom asked, what are we doing with AI, doesn't mean you have to go use AI.
Yeah.
You can say there is no business value to this. We're not going to do it. So that is a valid response.
Absolutely. And really look at what is the value of this? What value does this bring to the business? What risks does it bring? What's the proposition between the value and the risks?
All right. Good conversation, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for once. You guys keep popping by, and we keep taking advantage of your expertise and your time. So
Well, you keep writing the checks and we'll keep...
I'll have AI write you one and send it right over.
That must be why my last one bounced.
Thanks, guys. This podcast focuses on having valuable conversations on various topics related to banking and financial health. The podcast is grounded in having open conversations with professionals and experts, with the goal of helping to take some of the mystery out of financial and related topics, as learning about financial products and services can help you make more informed financial decisions. Please keep in mind that the information contained within this podcast and any resources available for download from our website or other resources relating to bank chats is not intended and should not be understood or interpreted to be financial advice. The host, guests, and production staff of Bank Chats expressly recommend that you seek advice from a trusted financial professional before making financial decisions. The host of Bank Chats is not an attorney, accountant, or financial advisor, and the program is simply intended as one source of information. The podcast is not a substitute for a financial professional who is aware of the facts and circumstances of your individual situation. Artificial intelligence is still such an abstract concept for most people that it feels quite scary. Some think that by adopting this technology, we are heading towards a Terminator-like future where humans are at war with machines. Others point out that generative AI still can't always correctly spell words or create an image of a human hand with a typical number of fingers. Objectively, AI is a new tool that we must learn how to use properly. And much like a hammer, this tool could be used to either create something amazing or to destroy what has been built. Our eternal thanks to Kevin and Mike from St. Francis University for talking with us today. AmeriServ Presents Bank Chats is produced and distributed by AmeriServ Financial Incorporated. Music by Rattlesnake, Milo, and Andrea Kalitkin. Production and editing by Jeff Matevish. You can find all of our episodes at ameriserv.com/bankchats or by searching for us on your favorite podcast app. We've also started to include video for the show, so check us out on YouTube. For now, I'm Drew Thomas. So long.